Hi, it's Erin and Simon with Access and Arbitrrage. And today's show is called The Reality Is. So there's a lot of conversation in a lot of different spaces about life and family and money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things that Simon and I were talking about is the reality of it, which is why there's so much conversation. So for instance, when we talk about the reality of marriage and children, the reality is a lot of people don't live that life because it requires a significant amount of discipline, compromise, communication, and it's tedious, right? It's supposed to run like a fine oiled machine, and what is the machine gonna do? It's just gonna be nothing but repetition, right? And repetitious movement. When we talk about finance, everybody is, glamorizing the bag, and then when you kind of dial it down on its head, you say, somebody could give you a bag right now. If you don't have the discipline in order to manage and protect it, bag's gonna go away. And you're not any further along, even though you got a bag literally handed to you. And what's worse is that nobody has a bag handed to them, right? You have to work for the bag. And what does that require? It's like a fine oil machine. You have to dollar cost average your way into wealth. That's nothing but repetition. It's tedious, it's monotonous. You have to ride with the ebbs and the flows of the market. Sometimes you're up real good, like when Bitcoin was 60,000.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're down real bad, like when Bitcoin went down to 3,000 in 2017. So we're noticing though, in these conversations, in these spaces, nobody is really touching on the reality of these things. And I fear that they're not touching on the reality of these things because they don't have experience with the reality of it. And that's one of the things that Simon and I really want to kind of bring to the show is that at the end of the day, you guys make the decisions that are best for you and your household, but we just kind of want to show you a reality that no one's really touching on, talking about, or discussing.
Yeah, and so like what she said is very good points all across the board. But I'll go back to that discipline. You got to be disciplined when you're in this game. A lot of people hop in real quick. They weren't used to the cycles that come. And even if you zoom out in a macro view, they have these business cycles that come and go, and you have to be ready for them. You have to be prepared for them. Everybody's trying to day trade and pop it here, and catch profit here, catch profit here. But here's the thing, the long-term view is what's really important, especially if you're trying to build wealth for your family, right? Generational wealth. So you have to have these long-term views, but have to have discipline. And, and far too often we see people who get in and out of these things, we call them lettuce hands, paper hands, stuff like that. But you got to have that vision, and you got to be able to take in and understand what it is. A good friend of the show, CEO Andy Sheckman, always said, gold and silver are wealth.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much you have. You can have one coin, you can have 5,000 coins. It is wealth, no matter what, and it is money. And we always talk about that. And we talked about Bitcoin being gold 2.0 because of the tenets of money that it reached. And so, these are things that we talk about. Also, she was talking about family. So what were you saying about family? You talking about relationships, maybe?
Yeah, but we were talking about in the car, marriage, right? So the union of two people, better for worse. Everybody remember the better part, but don't remember the worst part. For sickness and in health. Everybody's soft on the games when we're healthy, but when somebody's sick and you have the burden of having to take care of them, things get kind of dicey. In poverty and in wealth, right? Yeah, my man got all this money and I squandered all those funds and I bought in this Ferrari, but when shit goes bad, you're looking for another high value guy. So, I mean, I was just saying that people have these, like, especially when they're having a conversation, you should be doing this and you should be doing that and you should be doing the third. And it's like, okay, if that's what you should be doing, you also have to understand what is involved in doing it.
Yeah.
In the marriage part is riding through the waves of tumultuousness.
Yeah.
Child rearing, right? People see our kids and they're like, oh my God, you have a beautiful family. And it's like, for 21 years, we were on the hook for every single meal, for every shred of clothing. We don't have a lot of extended help that some people may have as far as family goes. Like, we had to raise these children even to the point where we had to take responsibility for their education. We weren't just sending them to school and hoping for the best. We have to create our own curriculum. People talk about how dope it is that we homeschool our children. Mm-hmm. Have you ever sat down and wrote a curriculum for more than one grade?
Yeah.
No. Right? Have you ever sat and had to purchase every single textbook, workbook, notebook, pencil, pen, Texas Instrument calculator, all of the things that they need, you are on the hook for. And a lot of us take that for granted because kid go to school, textbook gets issued, workbook gets issued. If your child go to school and he ain't got a notebook, some other parent, you know, I remember at the beginning of the school year, remember, we used to have to buy a whole bunch of extra stuff so that children who didn't have it, there is no whole bunch of extra stuff. We're on the hook for it all. So just understanding that in raising a family and building that first generational wealth, there is a significant amount of responsibility that goes into that.
And I'll tell you a story, you know, this story just gives an insight on who we are when we were a young married couple back a long time ago. We got our first apartment. And we didn't have any furniture.
Just without the dormitory.
Yeah. And we didn't have any furniture. All we had was a futon mattress.
And a TV.
And a TV. So, you know, during the day, we would sit the futon mattress on the wall like a couch. And then at night, we lay it down like a bed. And, you know, we had a few pots and pans and things like that. And a baby in a crib. That's what we had.
Yeah, the nursery was built up. We had everything for him.
So that's where we started. And we fought for over 20 years to get where we are now, like she's saying. So sometimes when you build your family, because you build your family together, build it together, one step at a time. It wasn't an easy process, but it's the outcome. The outcome, it was worth the outcome. Now, you know, because out here, there's so much talk about finding high value men and who makes this amount of money and stuff like that, and linking up at that high level. But you know, a lot of people had to build it up. My parents built it up. They built it up from nothing, and your parents built it up as well.
Man, they moved to a whole nother country with nothing, and built up that beautiful 4-bedroom house in the suburbs. By the time I came around,
suburbs of Long Island, if you will.
Right, and this is during the 60s, where not only were they Black, Black from another country. So it was difficult, but one thing we learned from our parents, there was one thing our parents had really gifted us, is work ethic and discipline. So that, I thank God for that, because there are a lot of people who don't have that example at home, and it explains why multiple cycles of generations aren't where they could be in life.
That's deep. You are right about that.
But I do want to touch on something you mentioned earlier. You talked about traders and stuff, right?
Okay.
So we're going to touch on the sensationalism of certain things and the reality of it. There's this with binary options, right? Trading. And a lot of people are getting into that. And they're like, hey, you can pay whatever the subscription is, and you can copy my trades. And they use terms like win the trade or lose the trade. And that really puts you in the mindset of gambling, right? These people are coming in because they're so eager to win a bag, right? That's how I'm gonna put it. It looks very easy, and they're not learning the market. They're not doing the hard work in order. I'm not saying you can't make money trading. I'm saying you have to do the work, because the more you trade, the more you have the opportunity to lose money, right? And the house always wins. You have people who went to college, to university, to learn how to trade. They have bots, they have the latest technology built by scientists in order to earn that money.
And so I just want to just zip in right here.
Mhm.
So if you guys go and do the knowledge on this, you got people from Wall Street, okay? They are recruiting physicists from Oxford, MIT,
Top schools.
Harvard, places like that, Princeton, to come work on Wall Street and build these bots that she spoke of. So now you're trying to trade against a Harvard-trained physicist,
Mhm.
and you know, in the end, that's going to be a loss.
Utilizing artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And I'm bringing this up because a lot of times when I scroll timelines, when I look at social media, they're always showing you the trades they win. How often do you see the trades that they lose? Right? Do they show you the losses? Do they show you that some months there is no win, and it's month upon month upon month that they haven't won a trade because they didn't do the work to learn the ebbs and flows of the market, to understand the psychology of the market and how the market understands our psychology, and the fear and greed factor, and so on and so forth.
And
This isn't about us trading. This is about the sensationalism of a thing in order to chase a bag. And just saying that there's no way to get a bag in any sense of the word without time, effort, and work.
Mhm.
Right? You cannot do it.
And we did a show, a very good show, if you check it out, on Neuro Economics,
Yes.
which she was talking about. And so these physicists who are scientists, so they look at things in a very certain way,
Mhm.
right? And she's talking about some of the behavioral economics of people in their brain, and some of the what do you call some of the enzymes and things like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, they're on top of this. And this is who you're trading against. Not to mention, she didn't mention the black boxes they have on the floor at the exchange, and you just trading from your phone or something like that. Your trade will be front run. And front run your trade, especially it depends on what exchange you're using. You're using a certain exchange, they're gonna front run your trades and let the people who have the black boxes get the better prices for and to you, it might not mean nothing. It might be just half a cent or something like that, but share over share over share over share makes a big deal. And so, yeah, you got to be careful with that. And but you got to know who you're up against. You're up against scientists, and you're trying to trade. They built the bots. You'll win some, but you'll lose more than you win.
And meanwhile, you're paying a subscription every month. You haven't won any trades, so you're losing money there. And then I want you to notice that people who brought you in, because it's typically an MLM kind of thing,
Mhm.
how long they stick with this particular thing, right? You'll notice they've moved on to something new. Let's talk about the sensationalism of MLMs. MLMers very rarely stick with anything that they do.
Right.
Period.
Mhm.
Right? And where there's no time in something, there's no mastery of it,
None.
there's no money to be compensated. So I just want to show you guys that that the outcomes that are the best outcomes, that are the best results, typically take a very long time. They
Mhm.
require that commitment, they require that effort. It involves failure at multiple points.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just telling y'all the reality of it, because people want stuff and they want it now, right? You cannot have a 21-year-old today even if you got pregnant right now in this moment. You cannot be married 20+ years, even if you got married today. Right? By the time you're married 20 years, somebody else has been married 40, 45 years, 50 years, 60 years. And then the actual walking out every single day with that person. The intentional aspect of the dating part of it. Right? I've been with him since I was 19 years old. We didn't know what we were doing. Right? I don't want to say that we stumbled into a great commitment, but because our personalities are so meticulous and methodical, we just happen to have the right personality to really build and get the outcomes we wanted as people together individually and collectively for our family and for our futures, right? And this is why we want to talk to young people. The reality of all of these things that we're talking about, the success of marriage, the success of child rearing and bringing up productive adults into society, having real wealth that you can leave to a whole bunch of kids, a whole bunch of grandkids. It's boring, right? And I don't mean boring in a bad way. I just mean it's very monotonous. It's tedious. There's failure at multiple points that you really have to sit with and analyze and look at and discuss. And that's what the partner is in your journey. There's a lot of aspects of life you just can't do alone. I don't know why people think that they can. And maybe I can, right? Maybe I'm speaking out of school. But the majority of my success came from compromising and working with and understanding. And even if I didn't like some of it or I didn't appreciate some of it, I couldn't live without it. I wouldn't have been successful without it. And I'm speaking for me, okay? So we just really want to kind of hit and touch on the reality of things. We're noticing a trend where people late in life, on date one, they're asking you, well, how much do you make?
Yeah, so
Let me see your pay stub. Let me see your checking account balance.
That's just
Go on, pull up your Chase account on the phone. I want to see, how much Bitcoin do you have? Pull out your wallets. And it's just like, where do you do that at?
yeah, so we're gonna talk about that a little bit here. I'm just going to it. So you hear this stuff that she's talking about, maybe some of the dating platforms, not platforms, but platforms on YouTube, people can talk about dating and marriage, stuff like that. Relationship experts, if you will. And one of the things that a lot of people are pressing on is how much money do you make? And what we wanted to talk about is right here in this moment, the difference between income and wealth, right? Because they're not, people use them synonymously, but they're not. They're not. When they say, how much money do you make? Fine. But the real key is how much money can you keep? And that's what matters. Because people still, there's a study out there, I don't want to get too technical on it, but there's a study out there, people who make more than 6 figures still have the same problems as people who make under 6 figures. It's just that they have maybe nicer accoutrements, right? Maybe you got a bigger house, you got a nicer car, you got nicer clothes and all this stuff. But still, when it gets down to it, you're still living close to paycheck.
But you mean like the debt to income ratio, like they still have a high debt to income ratio, like somebody with less.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have more money and then you can accumulate more debt. So then you owe people more money. And that's what it is. You can rate it up to the cost, if somebody from 40,000 to 140,000, you could rate it just that. Because you still will have closely that debt to income ratio. You'll just, like I said, you'll just have nicer things. And so what the real question is, not how much money do you make, how much wealth do you have, right? You told the story, there's often stories of people who didn't really have that much money, but, chopping wood, I call it chopping wood, you call it what?
Little dirty build big dam.
And then all of a sudden, 40 years later, they got a bag. He said, damn, how did you get a bag? It was just cleaning houses, or, you know, you was just, you know, cutting grass or something like that. Because they put in that work, that discipline, to put it away every day. We tell you all the time, no matter how much money you make, pay yourself first, all the time. I don't care if it's $25, that's 1 ounce of silver. So if you're working throughout your whole life, if you buy 1 ounce of silver every week, right? That's 52 weeks a year. So you got 52 ounces of silver at the end of 1 year. So at the end of 10 years, you got 520 ounces. So on and so on. And so at the end, you got a whole bunch of wealth, even if you didn't make a whole bunch of money as an income. So people have to have that delineation between income and wealth, because you could meet somebody later on in life and you're like, oh, you just, you know, you work for sanitation or something like that. But if they've been putting their stuff away and, you know, you fancy, you all the way up here, and you're like, oh, well, it's just sanitation, but he got wealth. He didn't put his wealth away. He put his money away into something, so he has something now. Also with your 401ks and things like that, you know, you should be putting,
especially with the employer matches.
Yeah,
they're not high, but it's
they're
still
not high, but
free money.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So take advantage of that stuff. But wealth and income are 2 different things. Doesn't matter how much money you make, per se, it's how much money you can keep. So if you always paycheck to paycheck and you make 150 grand a year, if somebody is not paycheck to paycheck who makes 50 grand a year, you know, chopping wood, moving up, that person will have wealth, even though they made 1/3 of what this person made.
But
so you got to be diligent.
That a little bit.
Got to be diligent.
Though, because one of the reasons why the person with 100,000 may not have as much at the end as the person with 50,000 is because of the United States and Western world's culture of consumption and excessive consumption. You have to understand, when you watch your television, when you're looking at these ads, when you travel and the billboards are there and the radio advertisements and so on and so forth, everything is programming you to consume, 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 whether it's music, food, entertainment, right? Usher got a residency in Vegas, and boy, he is sold the house out. Beyonce's tickets were astronomically high. All of your shows are sold out. Taylor Swift is like coming right up behind Beyonce and sold out shows. And it just shows you Western world's insatiable hunger for consumption of sports, food, drugs, and entertainment, right? I used to kind of advertise on the show how important it is to travel. I'm going to take 2 steps back, because traveling is a lot more difficult now with the pilot shortages, because nobody wants to be a pilot. We talked about structural jobs, cancellations, and so on and so forth. So here's what I'm going to say now. There is a critical importance of finding a way to take a sabbatical. Okay, and the United States has a lot of different great areas like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, the Poconos for New Yorkers, maybe even Canada up to Niagara Falls. But finding a place of some type of solitude, some type of isolation, to really just sit and just come out of all of that bombardment of advertising, clothes, jewelry, makeup, what else?
Well, and also, if you talk about the advertising, you can also take a break from social media.
For sure.
You know, if
sure.
it's not your, you know, some people, social media is their
for the work, and that's how they run
and,
their businesses, that's entrepreneurs, we get it.
Yeah,
but you still have to take a sabbatical. That's why I use the word sabbatical.
Yeah, take a break. Take a break, you know. Man, I can't remember, my good brother Blue Pill used to go up to the mountain and now he's go to the mountain in California. The name escapes me, but Blue Pill, he's from Harlem, New York, and he always takes a group of people and they go up to this mountain, Shasta. It's Shasta, right? Shasta up in Northern California. Back check me on that if I'm wrong, but he did go to Northern California up to the mountains. And, you know, people can just kind of get a, you know, a break, like she said, a sabbatical. Sit down, you know, you go to the water, you know, you meditate, you do these things because.
If you're on the mountain, there may not be water, but if there's a babbling brook or something like that.
Something like that, and you know, because the world and these cities will beat you down. It's not the natural order of things for people to live in that fashion. And you know, it is said, if you check me on the internet, it is said in the United States, 96% of the country is not being used as, you know,
I think
places.
that's everywhere, okay, like
Yeah.
Singapore
Right.
and all those other places.
Because everybody just, if you start looking at it, everybody just lives on the coast, and then middle America is kind of sprawling. We used to take road trips. We would drive for hours and hours, and all we would see is farm country until you hit a city, and then okay, boom, let's drive hours and hours and hours and hours again until you hit another city. There was nobody in the middle of America, and you know. And that's what it is, you know, we live out in a rural area where there's not many people. It's a little more natural, metaphysically, you know, the energy and stuff like that. You talk about people on top of each other and binding in, yeah, that energy is different than the energy out here. We don't even have a neighbor. We don't have a neighbor. We gotta go look outside, and the neighbor, the closest house is very far away.
About 2 miles.
Yeah, so.
And at least 10 miles that way.
Yeah.
But I bring up the sabbatical because that's where you get to sit and think. That's where you get to plan. That's where you get to reflect. So you want to do hindsight, right? You want to kind of take a look at your past and some of your successes. You want to look at your failures. You want to analyze that. Then you want to have insight. So that's the present. What's going on now? How am I doing things now? What would I like to see, and so on and so forth. And then you have to do your strategic planning. That's foresight, right? So you want to start easy, right? 6 months, maybe 3 months, just depending if you're new at this and you're just trying to give it a try. You know, 3 months from today, where should I be? Let's say it's something as simple as 3 months from today, I want to be $5,000 saved.
Okay.
Right? Or maybe it's 5,000 Bitcoin. Maybe it's, I just want 5 ounces of silver or gold, right? That's a much bigger, that's a much bigger leap. 3 months from now, and then 6 months, then you do a year. And then you do 3 years, and then 5 years, and then 7 years, and 10 years. Don't get crazy, right? Don't go past the 10 mark, because for most people, it is extremely difficult to see yourself even as late as 5 years into the future, right? Much less 10, 20. Santino's 6 years old now. He cannot see himself at 15. We could barely see him at 16. He's running around, he's doing all sorts of crazy stuff. He's just learning to write, he's just learning to read, he's just learning to spell. 10 years from now, he's gonna be ready to almost graduate from high school. So, you know, what we're saying requires a lot of communication, right? When we say communication, hopefully you do have somebody in your life journey. It doesn't necessarily have to be a spouse, but I want to be honest, the reality is your spouse is the best person to help you on this life journey, right? Because that is supposed to be your most vivid mirror. That is the person who knows you intimately. They know you spiritually, they know you emotionally, right? Your mom doesn't know you like your spouse does, your daddy don't know you like your spouse does. Your best friend should not know you the way your spouse knows you. No. Period. And if she or he does know you better than your spouse, you really want to take this time of sabbatical to reevaluate that type of relationship and to really kind of put forth the effort you need in order to turn it around. Okay. Also, for a lot of us who are used to doing goal planning, you understand that you need an accountability.
Yes.
That's what they're for, right? You have an accountability partner. Sometimes when they hold you accountable, it doesn't feel good, right? Because a lot of times the things that make you feel good and make you tingle aren't good for you. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys know that bitter herbs are better for you than ice cream and candy and cake. Bitter herbs don't taste good, but it's good for your body. So this show is really about the sensationalism of things and the actual reality of the outcome that most people dream to have, that most people would prefer to have, that most people discuss having. And one of the reasons why we're noticing on a grand level
Yes.
that they're not getting those outcomes is because they're not willing to sacrifice and do what it takes to keep with that thing in order to see those results. None of these results happen overnight. You guys are watching Simon Family Investment Ventures 20 years into the future. What do I mean by that? Been with him since I was 19. He just told you. We left Uncle Sam's dormitory. We moved into an apartment. It wasn't a 6-7 bedroom house with 6 bathrooms.
Yeah.
It wasn't. That's not how we started. Right? It was the effort that we put into each other, that we invested into each other, that we invested into ourselves to keep this thing going. So now when you see us 20 years into the future, it does look spectacular. And even now, we still look at each other and say, we need to work on this, we need to work on that, we need to fix this, we need to tweak that, we need to add this to the curriculum, we need to take this out of the curriculum, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But it's constant hindsight, insight, foresight. And that's a every week cycle. I say every week because to do it every day is overkill. You drive yourself crazy. For some people, they need to do it every month. Some people need to do it every year. However, your mind is wired to handle the investment you put in yourself first. Right? Wealth, and these aren't real numbers, but wealth is really 99% mindset, 1% of actual money. Right? And let's be honest, lottery winners lose money every time.
Yeah.
Because they were not prepared for that type of wealth. They typically don't live the lifestyle of someone who understands how to manage and protect wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? MLM doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. Yes, there are a few people at the top, but those few people at the top could probably make anything.
Yeah, they can.
Because of their mindset and how they operate and how they roll. The other 99 people down in the rest of that pyramid, constantly moving on to new things because they want to stop it. Because they want to make the money right now.
Yeah, and she's right about the mindset part. Yeah, you have to have that mindset. People get stuck on numbers. I'm a millionaire, billionaire, all the stuff. But the mindset is what is important. Even I shout out to my structural workers, people who go to grind away for 35, 40 years. Yeah. Put something away. Then when you get out of here, you're 65. You got a nice little coffer of wealth. And that's just as far as I'm talking about people who are structural workers. You're talking about more people who are entrepreneurs and things like that. You still got to put something away. You got to pay yourself first. No matter how little or how big, pay yourself first, and then you can take care of other things forward. But over time, it will build up, and you will be surprised. It's exponential. You'll be surprised at how much wealth you would have over time, and that's what you can do. Now, if you're a little older and just getting started, you might have to put away a little bit more.
Right. You gotta be a bit more aggressive.
Than somebody else, right? So that you can catch up, because I don't know if you want to go into this dragging, but because people don't understand about health and things like that. As you get older, you're not going to be able to put in as many hours, work as hard. And some people, it gets so bad that you can't even work at all. Yep. So you have to take that into consideration. You don't know when it's going to hit you.
And that's another thing that isn't part of people's insight or foresight is that they typically don't see themselves sick, right? You're 20, you get a cold, you're gonna still go to work, most people. You know, when you're 40, that cold feel like a flu. You know, something comes up, your body's going through menopause for women, men are having, you know, issues that they didn't have before. And it's something you need to kind of add as almost like a prophylactic, like just in case, right? I feel fine, I went to the doctor gave me a clean bill of health, but just in case something weird strikes, coronavirus came out of nowhere, people just died. Right? They had no idea that was going to happen. They had some comorbidities that they've had for years that didn't potentially cause a problem, but anything could be a problem. So we often say, you know, you want to just kind of add that in because it's very possible and very probable.
It's very probable. And I'm glad that you say that, you know, because you could also, as she was saying, as you get older, some of the things that ail you, certain medications.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
The medications will drive you down, they'll beat you down.
Y'all watch those commercials? It'll be like, you know, this will treat your diabetes, but you know, you're gonna have liver cancer, stomach cancer, brain cancer, you know, all of these things, and you kind of sit, listen to the commercial and think like, who would take that medication?
Right, but you need it. Sometimes you need it. It is what it is. I like what she said, you know, about probable or possible, because people use those words interchangeably as well. But, you know, something that is probable by the numbers fleshes out the things that are possible. You know, anything could be possible. Things that are probable, look at the numbers. As you get older, you're gonna have some ailment, you're gonna have some ailments, whatever they are. Something's gonna happen. You know, you do your best to stay in shape, keep your weight down, all this stuff, keep your blood pressure down, but right? Right. I mean, I have to take medication, you know, that makes me tired and sleepy.
And y'all know I have to take it.
And
just
stuff like that.
Feel better, right?
Yeah, and you know, it makes me feel better, but I'm tired, I'm kind of groggy sometimes. I don't really like to take it. I might take it, but you know, I ain't trying to pop my collar, but I'm rich, so I can do it, right? I'm rich. It's okay. It's okay. I ain't popping my collar. I'm rich, but I can take this medication. So you guys, you know, keep
and it doesn't matter how much wealth you have. You know, Elizabeth Taylor was extremely wealthy. Men kept falling in love with her lavender color eyes. Look her up if you guys don't know who Elizabeth Taylor is. And you know what? All of her wealth couldn't do anything for how sick she was for like the last 7 years of her life. She really suffered and struggled. So that's one thing money don't. It can help kind of like prop you up. Like for instance, we have Magic Johnson. Back when people were getting HIV, that was like a bill of death for most people. But because of his wealth, he was able to get enough cocktails to where if you tested them now, you wouldn't even be able to detect the virus in the system. But for most people, the ailments that really struggle with in midlife and later on in life, your wealth is going to maintenance it, but it doesn't do away with it, and you never get back to 100%. So, you know, you want to write that in your strategic plan. Another thing, ladies, right? Everybody wants to be sexy and thin and slim, especially in a culture where in the Western worlds, the food, there's just so much food to eat and it tastes so delicious, and people are always out to eat because it's a very social activity, right? If you're trying to slim down and you're trying to be sexy again, you're trying to recapture your youth, you gotta do it the right way, right? Just like you can't just get a bag and call it a day. Women are dying, going to get the surgery because they don't want to do the work. You have to modify your lifestyle. It is a commitment, like any other commitment. Instead of dollar cost averaging your way to wealth, you have to really modify your diet in order to get back healthy and have your body look the way you want it. right? And sometimes your body don't ever look back the way you want it to. I have 4 kids. This is the best I'm gonna look, y'all. I can't do nothing more for him as far as keeping myself. This is the best I can do, right? So no, because I mean, I think I can lose another 10 pounds. I'm struggling to lose the little fupa I got down here where I carry the kids, but I am going to invest in myself to do it the right way. Right? We're not running to the surgeon to get butts done and breasts done and fat transfer. It's too much of a risk. So we're talking about the reality of it, right? When we see Beyonce and we're like, oh my God, concert Beyonce looks incredible and her body is this, and her body is that. Y'all don't know how much time she spent in the gym. You don't know that she's not eating anything at all during the day, but some guacamole and some chips, right? Y'all watched the homecoming thing where she was 99 kilos. So that's over 200, it's about 220 pounds. When she had her twins, she said no dairy, no alcohol, no this, no that, no third. She named a whole list of things she wasn't gonna do. And she kept telling you she was hungry. Right? She's doing Soul Cycle for 2 hours a day. I'm running this list off because the understanding is the things that people want, those outcomes. They're not seeing the work behind it. They're only seeing the finished package.
Well, I'm saying you're talking about consumption, for the most part, right?
And she's rich. She can eat whatever she wants and get the fat sucked out. No, she's not doing
You're
it.
talking about consumption, and that goes into food and stuff like that, but it also goes into wasting your money out here on the open market.
That's true.
Where you could, where you could be taking a little slice off and throwing it into Bitcoin. Boom, you know, throwing it into gold, throwing it into silver. You don't need these pair of sneakers. You don't need this stuff. You don't need all this stuff that you waste your time. People, and I was shocked to notice that people go shopping because they're bored. And I didn't know that. I personally didn't know that. People, I'm bored, I'm gonna go to Target.
I had to break the bad news to him.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Walmart, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go do that. It's like, really? So you're just gonna go to a place and to see what you're gonna buy.
Yeah, people, but they're not just bored, a lot of times they're lonely. So going out and getting out, you're amongst the people. It's like your extended living room. And that's why they call it impulse shopping. It's why they advertise so much.
And
because people do it.
And I know people are going on Amazon and just buying stuff.
Oh yeah, then there's the Amazon shopping.
So I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. You know, I'm kind of old school and I don't get into too much of that stuff. You just, this could have been money that allocated to your wealth.
So with that though, Becky, it's the delayed gratification part, right?
Okay.
Because when I buy this phone, I have it right now.
Yeah.
I buy something new that there's a psychology to it, and this is what we were talking about when we say that the man, the people, the shadow government, wherever they are, pay billions of dollars to get psychologists, and that's why we keep talking about these psychological profiles, so that they can figure out how to transfer the wealth back to them.
Yes, indeed.
When you take a huge chunk of our income and put it towards the precious metals, the Bitcoin, there's a few other things you have in the wallet.
Yeah, I guess.
And a little bit of cash on the sidelines because we do run businesses.
Yep.
No one can see that, right? So there's no like psychological, like there's no oxytocin flowing.
Yeah, and so let's bounce off of that. She's talking about oxytocin flowing. You know, I'm a big proponent of Bitcoin, right? It's digital. It has a lot of character. It has a lot of characteristics that you can use and move around borders like we do. But what I do say is gold and silver is something that you can order to your home. That you can hold it in your hand.
And everybody in the house is excited when we get that new one. Even the kids, they want to hold it, they want to look at it.
And like I said, it hit different. You got these quarters and dimes, like you think that's money. You get this 1 ounce silver, 2 ounce. It feels different. It clings. It sounds different when they hit each other. Even if you and what I'm trying to say is you actually become a fan of it. And you're like, oh, okay, I need to order this coin, that coin. kids sit down, they order a coin, Spider-Man coin, Captain America,
Oh, yeah, they do.
Captain America style, what's it, shield,
Mhm.
you know, things like that.
The Marvel collection,
yeah,
they like
yeah.
the Disney collection.
Yeah, so they get this stuff and they like it and they can hold it in their hand and it's wealth. You can feel it, you can feel the weight, you can feel the weight of it.
Mhm.
Get a 10-pound, not 10 pounds, sorry,
10
10 ounce. Yeah, 10 ounce, you can feel it in your hand. You get your kilo bar, you can feel
That
the
feels
weight.
like it's 10 pounds.
You feel the weight and you could
The kilo
understand,
bar.
you can understand the wealth.
Right.
Understand the wealth and
But the mindset is understanding that there is a significant journey to
mhm,
get to the outcomes you want to get, regardless of what they are, whether they're relationship, whether it's financial, emotional, physical, right? There's a journey to take that gets there. You don't always see the results right away.
nope.
So this is why we named the show today, like the reality is, you know, women are saying, if I meet the right man, then I'll go ahead and have kids and so on and so forth. And it's like, well, you have to take the journey in order to meet him. And then you have to take the journey with him in order to build to get to where you want to go. And a lot of people don't want to invest that type of time. They don't want to invest the type of effort and energy into it for one reason or another. When we talk about, I've had someone say to me, they don't want to make too much money. You remember this?
Yes.
I don't want to make too much money because I don't want to have to owe the IRS. And you're just like, really? Because you're struggling. But okay, right? And it's basically, I don't feel like putting in work to earn that type of money. People who earn high incomes, and I'm not talking about sports, not talking about entertainment, certainly not talking about drugs. I'm talking about regular industries.
Yep.
You have a shit ton of responsibility. You probably work more hours than you would like, and so on and so forth. And you spent years building up your career, right?
Yep.
So with that type of time that you invest, you don't want to now turn around and squander the money. And this is all that we're trying to kind of get across. How people live their life is how they live their life. But if you're saying you want the specific outcome, we can look you in your face and say, we live that outcome. And this is what we did. Now, we have to tweak some of the things that we do, yes, right? Especially if you're not a family as big as ours, you don't have to sacrifice to the point that we did just to make sure that everybody got what they needed at a certain point in our family journey. But just understand that these are some of the realities you have to kind of face and think about and ponder.
Yep.
Right? If I want my body back like when I was 20, that's going to require a significant amount of commitment to yourself.
Okay.
If you say, you know, I want a bag, in order to build that bag up, it requires a significant amount of commitment. That dollar cost averaging is everything. And it really helps to mitigate against the ebbs and flows of the market, right? It also helps you to have a slow and steady win in that race. It builds up your character, it builds up your perseverance in life. And understand that if you do have children, they're watching it. I told you the one thing I learned from my mother without her ever having to say a word about it is her work ethic. And my grandmother had the same work ethic. So we're just generations of women with a very meticulous work ethic. We're willing to put in the work and see it through to the end without abandoning it early. So that's all we wanted to do. I just noticed that people are having these conversations about money, about marriage, about child rearing, you know, about all of these things. And I said, nobody's talking about the reality of any of it.
Yeah. So yeah, we just wanted to give you some OG games today. Nothing technical, nothing like that. We still have some people that are going to be coming on here in the future. So look out for that. You know, other than that, what are we looking like?
I have no idea. I can't say.
Okay, so other than that,
we will see y'all.
That's all we got. That's all we got. We'll bring you something good next week. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Y'all have a good one. As we get closer and closer to when the BRICS Nation meets in August, we'll get back to that. Right now, it's kind of like, you just gotta wait and see
Okay,
kind of thing. Because there's a lot of closed doors conversation about the currency. India is not cooperating. They're having trouble with India, which is the core part of BRICS
Yeah,
that I embrace. So as that kind of picks back up, we'll start talking about the foresight and forecasting of what's to come. But right now, just dollar cost average your way into whatever you're trying to see as an outcome.
right.
And we'll see you next week.
Let's go, champs.
Let's go, champ. Tyson.